I know I'm just some random guy coming out of nowhere on this, but I am so sick of hearing about this topic. Uh, I thought I'd just put my foot down and say the final word on this, because all of this is correct. People will insist that it's not, but what I'm about to say is correct. Let me state right off the bat, unequivocally, if you believe that art can be objectively uh, critiqued, you are wrong. You are wrong, period. You may think you've devised some uh, meticulous criteria by which to discern whether something is good or not, but you're wrong because there is no way for any evaluation of anything to be objective. That's simply not possible. There is no way you can look at something. There's no way you can gather data on. There is no experiment you can perform to determine whether something is good or not. It's not an objective quality of reality. It does objectively exist, but it exists in your head. It's a subjective construct. It exists in your head. It is assigned to things by your mind. Right? It's inherently subjective. There is no way that you can evaluate something to be good or bad in anything but a subjective manner. To even say that something can be good objectively doesn't make any sense because good only exists subjectively. I've heard, of course, many times that, we can set a standard. We can set a standard and judge it on that. If we set a standard, we have a certain criteria on the from that standard on what is good and what is bad art, then we can objectively verify whether a given piece of art meets those criteria for quality. You can. The process of doing that is objective, but the standard itself is subjective. There is no way to escape that. All right, I don't care how many times you make some sort of ad populum argument about how, well, this is, you know, a lot of people like this, or a lot of people like that, or Star Wars fans expect this from The Last Jedi, or whatever. None of that matters, okay? It doesn't matter how many people agree with you. I'll use The Last Jedi as an example just because it's the one that you know, the objective critique EFAP crowd go on about ad nauseum. It doesn't matter uh, that The Last Jedi is poorly written, is full of plot holes, shits on the canon, shits on the characters. None of that matters if the person you're talking to doesn't agree that those are bad things, or that they are sufficiently bad to make them dislike the film. For instance, fucking Innuendo Studios just made a video where he basically says that he is fine with Guillermo del Toro making the same fucking movie over and over again because it's anti-fascist. That's his criteria for quality, or at least a big part of it. He doesn't care if it's repetitive as fuck. It's anti-fascist, so he likes it. I mean, I I want more than that, but I can't tell him he's objectively wrong. He's not objectively wrong. If that's what he, values in something, then Guillermo del Toro makes great movies by his standard. Likewise, people who like The Last Jedi often have different criteria. I know a couple people IRL in the academic sphere who like it explicitly for stereotypical SJW reasons. It's got minorities and empowered female woman protagonist who totally isn't a Mary Sue, and that's the primary thing that they're looking at. Their primary lens, their primary standard by which they judge whether something is good or not is, does it affirm and or promote my ideological viewpoint? If it does, it's a good movie, regardless of shortcomings of the writing, characters, consistency with prior entries in the series. That's all secondary. They're not objectively wrong. Now, I don't agree with them, and not just because I don't necessarily share their politics, but that doesn't make me objectively right. I think the problem that people run into with this argument is that if they admit this, right, if they admit that they can't objectively say that someone is wrong and incorrect in their opinions about a piece of art because the standard to which they hold that art is simply completely different from their own, the problem is that there's nothing to do with that, you see. Because if someone just doesn't agree with you on what makes good art, there's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to talk about. You can't talk to them. It won't have any relevance to the other party. This is, by the way, not to say that this makes criticism pointless. It is not pointless if there is agreement between the critic and the critic's audience, or between the critic and the artist, on what is and isn't good. A substantive discussion can in fact be had as to whether a given piece of art is in fact good. You just have to get over the idea of insisting that the standard you are using is objectively true, that everyone who doesn't agree with you is wrong, that the universe itself is on your side in terms of the art that you enjoy, and that therefore you can shit on and dismiss as factually, existentially incorrect everyone who doesn't agree with you. That's just egotistical, all right? Just get over it. Okay, just say, you know what? I don't agree with you about what is good art, and move on. Don't talk to them anymore. There's no point. So just don't bother with it. But you don't need to insist that, like, actually they're wrong, that their opinions are wrong, that their criteria is wrong, and that only your criteria are correct, and everyone should only listen to you, and artists should only listen to you, because that can't, like I've said, that can't be true, because that's not how good and bad work. So if the problem really is just an ego thing, if everyone were to just get over the idea that their opinions are the only ones that are actually valid, that their opinions are the only ones that matter, the only ones that are correct, and were to simply find common cause with others who share their values on art, there'd be no problem. And we could all just get on with it.